Subscribe to our channel for your weekly football updates. And here we go. The third episode of our podcast, Off the Woodwork, where we discuss everything football from transfer, humors, news, analysis, all the way to me. And what a week it has been. So, to start it all off, let's go on with the transfer news. And it has been a stunning week for the transfer, as there has been a lot of stunning moves that have happened from different leagues. And the news that has been rocking the stage right away is with which I'm going to bring in Chaminda into the fold. As we can see, the Barcelona exodus is finally started. We have seen the exit of Nelson Semedo, who is signed for Wolves. We have seen the exit of Arturo Vidal, who is signed for Inter Milan. And also, Luis Suarez, the front man for Barcelona for all these years, is in talks and very close to agreeing a deal with Atletico Madrid. So, Chaminda, your take on this exodus? What does it mean for Barcelona? And selling Suarez to your rivals, Atletico Madrid, what does it mean for the league?
Well, first of all, it had to be done. It is the hard way, just the hard way to move forward. First, we come to the transfer of Nelson Semedo. Well, he was destroyed against Bayern by Alphonso Davies. So he was one of the first target players. So the move was quite unexpected, but Barcelona are currently pursuing some other options which might suit better in Ronald Koeman's style of play. So he's now looking for the Ajax right back. But there will be stiff competition from Bayern Munich also for his signature. And then the Suarez.
I think Chaminda, I think they're looking to Sergio Dest, right?
Yeah. And then the departure of Suarez is now almost final. He was about to join Juventus, and then the whole examination fiasco happened. The scrutiny is still going on, and then Atletico came out of nowhere, and now he'll be united with one of the craziest managers around. So it will be very interesting to see, and I wish all the best for Luis Suarez to succeed at the Atletico. But it was the last final nail in the coffin of the legendary MSN trio. So now Messi is the only one left. It was a bit heartwarming to see Luis Suarez go, but still, I think, as I said earlier, that it will be the best decision for himself and the club as well. But there is one more important twist that we have seen reports that President Bartomeu has tried to stop this transfer from happening and stop Luis Suarez on his tracks. So again, there is uncertainty as always with Barcelona transfers. There is always some
Bartomeu doing what he does best every day.
Yeah, Bartomeu being Bartomeu. And then there's one more transfer, which is departure of Arturo Vidal. For us, the bloggers, Arturo Vidal was not among us the favorite ones, because he was not a player with the Barcelona DNA, as we like to say, but he was a very utilitarian player. But I think he had to go, and Inter Milan is. I think it will be a good destination for him. He'll be accompanied by Alexis Sanchez, his teammate from the national team.
He was feeling left out by Koeman as well, so maybe it's a good move for him to rejuvenate his career. And as well as that, like for Luis Suarez, we were talking in the last episode that he is almost finalized to Juventus. But I think the physicality and the demand of both Atletico and Juventus are slightly same. But although Atletico are quite using a quite low block team, so I think Luis Suarez may fit in Simeone's team a tad better than Andrea Pirlo's team, because Pirlo was quite he was not sitting down, was enjoying the possession of the ball. I've seen a different Juventus last weekend, so I think it's good for Suarez to move better to go to Atletico Madrid.
Okay, and also just to bring this into your notice, Suarez won't be the first prolific Uruguayan striker that Simeone will be managing. There was and still is the legacy that Diego Forlan left in Atletico Madrid. So let's see if Suarez can pick it up from there. Also, there's news about Ricky Puig leaving Barcelona on loan. So is it the end of Barcelona creating superstars? Like, why aren't they not giving opportunities to youngsters anymore? I mean, if
Yeah,
Sergio Busquets was loaned out like this, probably he would have never gotten the.
yes, everyone from the Barcelona fan base wants to see players from La Masia succeeding at the top level, right? And Ricky Puig is one of the most uh, most one of the most favorites among the fan base. But I think Puig has decided to stay at the club and fight for minutes on the pitch, despite being told by the coach that he is not in the plans of the coach. So I think that will be a great relief for us, and I hope he manages to prove himself in front of Ronald Koeman, and he will be. I hope he will be featuring more often than not.
Okay, great. And also with the transfer saga of Suarez continuing, there has been another big profile exit from Atletico Madrid. Rather, it is the return of Alvaro Morata to Juventus. Once again, we have talked about this in the past that Juventus only signs old players. But to me personally, I don't think the signing of Alvaro Morata makes much sense. But then again, we can think about the Ronaldo and Morata Real Madrid connection there. Maybe some spark will happen, maybe not. But Morata has deliberately time after time failed to prove his potential at different clubs. So your take on this, guys?
I think there's a thought behind this move. I think Pirlo feels Alvaro Morata can run behind the defense, right? So his pace in the Premier League, like we saw, he had pace, but it was like he was caught in the offside. He was caught in the offside trap, or like he would be lagging behind. He couldn't cope up with the physicality of the league, and even in Atletico Madrid, his his aerial capabilities was not that of that standard which has been set in teams which play in the Champions League. He scored important goals in Champions League as well, but Alvaro Morata hasn't proved himself like as an outright number 9 in any club which he has gone. Like his best stint, you can say, was at loan at Juventus itself. So I think it's a sort of like a mini homecoming for him, and as he says, a dream move every time wherever he goes. This would be a very difficult test for him because with so many superstars up there, Alvaro Morata has to fit in because if Pirlo has a way of playing players, it's actually you need to understand it and grasp it as quickly as possible. Because yesterday they were using space much better than they did under Sarri. So I think Alvaro Morata has to be focused all the time, and maybe this is the thought that he can complement Ronaldo and Dybala, or maybe he can be used as a backup option.
I mean, sarcastically speaking, I mean, I saw one meme out there. I mean, I guess Morata is the ideal replacement for Higuain. But I mean, I don't want to go too much into the controversy of that. Yeah, Bora, you were saying something.
But I think Morata needs to be a little patient with his clubs now because he has been the modern day football vagabond, like transferring from one club to another, and he needs to be a little patient. Yeah, because he has age on his side. He is not very old. He is young. He's still capable of proving his potential. And at Juventus, I think he is not going to get a chance straight away because how they lined up under Andrea Pirlo in their first game. I think he's going to give in more time to youngsters like Kulusevski, or when Dybala comes in, might be he would pair alongside Ronaldo. So he might not get a chance at the first team straight away, but I think he needs to be a little patient.
Great, great. And now moving from the high-profile transfers, let's talk about one particular transfer that has been making the waves and was rather more surprising. So Liverpool added to their ranks the Portuguese attacker Diogo Jota from Wolverhampton Wanderers. So, I mean, given the sort of world-renowned and world-class forward line that Liverpool already has at its disposal, I mean, the move for Diogo Jota for 45 million pounds, does it make sense?
I think the move also facilitated Kijana Hover's move back to to Wolves. So that was a sweetener for Wolverhampton to lose him because we saw what Podence possesses that ability to replace him. Neto is young, but Neto will come of age.
But
But
what's the
what I
logic?
express
What's the logic behind? What's the logic behind Jota signing for Liverpool, who already have such a strong attacking line?
I think Klopp is picking up his options because it's a very cramped season and you have matches every week, 2 matches every week. So maybe he's thinking about playing a different like front three, like maybe of the combination of Minamino, Origi, and maybe Jota up front. So he's thinking of that, like using that in cup fixtures, or maybe combination of Bobby and Salah with one of them in the UCL fixtures. Maybe that's the thought behind that. But he's trying to create a backup option, and I think it's a good move because what I said in the first episode is like I think Wolves would finish sixth, but Diogo Jota would be one of the main reasons because they do so. And since Jota didn't play against City, you saw like the lack of creativity. Although Potence was lethal in certain attacking areas, but Diego Jota can score goals. So other than Raul Jimenez, he provided an outlet for Nuno Espirito Santo to have someone in the side who can score, like a natural goal scorer. He broke into the Portugal team while playing for Wolves as well. So I think he's a good backup for Sadio Mane. And if Mane decides to leave for a bigger club than Liverpool, I'm not saying a bigger club in terms of stature, but like a financial move where Liverpool is forced to sell him because he is not getting younger, like with every passing year. So maybe then Jota or Origi, they probably have options for someone who can step into the side directly.
Got
And
it.
also, I think he's a upgrade on Jadon Shaqiri on the bench. I think he's a better
Yeah.
player and who can slot in any time
Shaqiri.
if required be at any time of the season.
And
Okay,
there are reports that Liverpool has also been contacting Ismail Sarr. He might be joining them as soon as
Because Sarr doesn't deserve to play in the championship. Actually, he was quite bright and like he's a prospect who's been looked after by many scouts from many teams for like the past 2 seasons. So maybe this is the year for Sarr, and his agent is talking. His agent is in he's in contact with different clubs. So a Premier League move can't be ruled out.
Okay, so
Also,
that's
Troy Deeney, I think he's also looking for a move to the Premier League. I think these two players of Watford, Troy
these two
Deeney
players,
and
these
Ismail
two
Assar.
players definitely have the quality to play in the Premier League, and it has been proven time and again. Let's see how it unfolds. Already, it has been a crazy transfer window. Moving on to some other news, Milic and Dzeko's move are in a standstill in the Serie A. One is not happening, and that's why the other is not getting facilitated. So it's a bizarre situation once again with Juventus and their, as Rishida commented, quote unquote, fetish for their old players, and also for Roma, they want some young blood and fresh start to their season. Let's see how that thing also unfolds up, because that is going to have a big impact in the league, as I feel. And other than that, there is another big news of Javi Martinez finally departing from Bayern Munich after so many years of fruitful service, and he is signing for Athletic Bilbao. So all I can say right now is, with Suarez moving to Atletico Madrid and with Martinez moving to Bilbao, and also some other really quality transfers that have happened in La Liga, I think this year, I mean, Premier League is always up top, but La Liga appears to me as the league to look out for, because there will be so many clubs up for contention this year, especially with Real Madrid seemingly not making any big name signings. So did, Barcelona. Your take on this, guys, quickly.
But I think whatever is happening at the other club is like it's not a big money move or a big move for a young player or something. But these are all tactical moves, and maybe they're trying to replace someone directly or creating a backup option. Like for Bilbao, they're trying to get a backup option for Javi Martinez. It opens up different possibilities for Bayern Munich as well. And we have seen like players from Spain who have been playing elsewhere return home during this like after this pandemic period. David Silva has returned home. Javi Martinez is supposed to come back to Spain. There is a feeling of more reliability than nurturing their hopes or career options. So we are seeing a very unique transfer window, which has like not closed as of now, and it's quite a long span of time. So clubs can easily pan out their whole plan for the summer or for the next 1 or 2 years, as certain other clubs have also done, like Unai Emery's Villarreal. They have bring a lot of players for this, especially from Valencia as well as other clubs to fill in the vacant spots as they'll be playing in European football again. So I
Okay.
think La Liga is going to be an exciting league to be
Like,
watched out this season. Yeah.
yeah. So, okay, that's, I guess, all we have for the top transfers of the week. We'll definitely be updating you up. Do make sure that you follow us on our social media handles where we keep on posting the latest updates from the world of football. Now, moving on from international transfer, let's move on to the Indian football segment of the show. So, a lot of stuff have been happening in the Indian football scene recently, especially the news related to East Bengal. Rishida, all up to you now.
I think the biggest news which we can think of right now is of East Bengal, because it's a done deal. Like they will be playing in the like Indian Super League. As far as the deadline is concerned, you can see the tweet from Marcus Margulho, India's top tier one journalist. He said that by October 30 we can expect a decision. And I think so, because the documents have been submitted, the first round of documents, and the financial paperwork are now in compilation, and probably by next month they would be submitting the second round of documents which the FSDL will require from them. It's a long process actually. So, but FSDL has made an exception for East Bengal, because they're obviously a very big club and like a historical institution, you can say, rather, for football in India. So I think this is a very good move, and the fans in Kolkata will be excited, and they will be having a very prosperous season because of the signings they have made. And I think we will see the Kolkata derby definitely. It's 100% we will see the Kolkata derby again.
And finally, it will be getting the financial exposure that it demands and that it deserves, because it is the
Actually,
one derby that is recognizable all across the world. Just like some of the greatest derbies considered in football, the Kolkata derby is one of them. And Himanshu, what you have for us on the transfer end of the Indian
Yeah,
football?
yeah. Regarding the transfers, there's big news coming from Northeast United FC. They have signed in Portuguese winger Luis Mercado. He's 32 years old. He has quite a lot of experience playing in the top divisions of Liga NOS, the Portuguese first division, and I think he's going to be a very good signing because I've watched some of his clips, and he looks to be an exciting winger. He can play on either wings. He has good ball distribution. He can run with the ball. He has good dribbling ability. And I think last season with Martin Chavez on the wings, I think Northeast United did not have any no, they did not get any goals or assists from that guy. Although he was exciting to watch. So I think with this signing, I think they are going to it's going to be very handy for Gerard Nous's side.
plus, that one more news coming out of Northeast United is our like the skipper from Highlander skipper Fede Gallego. He has also extended his stay for this year at Northeast United yesterday only. So I think Gallego playing as a natural false nine or as a cam or a playmaker, and with Luis Machado on the flanks, I think it will be a very interesting watch, because I expect personally Ninthoy to take the right wing, because now Redeem Talang is no longer at Northeast United. So it will be a very exciting prospect. The thing is that they have to get the correct balance with a perfect midfielder and a foreign striker. I think if they can do these two signings, again, Northeast United will be like definitely, like at least they can hope for something to improve from the past season disappointment.
Yes, yes, exactly. And there are also talks ongoing. Yes, Aminata.
I was going to talk about another former Northeast United player, that is Satyasan Singh, who have previously played with Kerala Blasters, and he has now extended his stay at the Kerala Blasters camp. And he is often regarded as one of the finest in the wing department, and who can play both the wings. So I think Kerala Blasters will be more than happy to allow him to stay at the club for longer duration.
That allows their mixture of youth and like experience in the Kerala Blaster side right now. Now then.
Yeah.
It's also
because
they signed in Kutia from Northeast United FC, so that is also
yeah. So it's going to be a very good, interesting season because teams like Kerala Blasters and Northeast United, they like had that their fans have always have more high expectations of them every year, and they have failed to like they have failed to reach the playoffs often, and they haven't won the silverware. So the closure they get with such like perfect extensions or securing the targets for a longer duration of time, I think it means certainly a small project is starting to take shape, and it's very important for Indian Super League teams for their sustenance, for players feeling more confidence for the club they are playing in. So I think it gives a sense of security as well.
Yeah, I was talking about the Northeast United gaffer, no, Gerard Noose. With his
Yeah.
coming in, I think there's a lot of hope and expectation around the club because he's just 35, but don't get mistaken by his age. He has vast loads of experience. He has worked in the backroom staff of Rafa Benitez at Liverpool. He has
Yeah.
worked in the youth academies of Brighton Hove Albion. He has great experience, international experience, working with Avram Grant as the assistant of the
Hmm.
Ghana national team. So I think he wants to build a structure here. He has said that he needs some time, and I think with the Northeast United board current every year, every season they are changing managers year after year. So I think with this move, signing of Gerard Noose, I think he's going to stay here for some time, and he talks about building a proper structure, right from the youth teams to the main squad,
Hmm.
and he has a knack for spotting talent, and with the Northeast United youngsters like Ningthoi Gamba Mete and another central midfielder.
Lalim Puya, right? Puya.
Lalan
Ah,
Puyaraju,
yeah.
yeah. So with
Puya is
those young,
definitely a talent. Yeah, he's definitely a talent to look out for. Like he can hold the ball, he can dictate the play, he can set the tempo, he can intercept the ball. I think that guy has a like he'll be massive for Northeast United this year.
Northeast United FC, they have been the perennial underdogs, underachievers,
Yeah,
Yep, yep.
because the
every
fans have
season.
so much expectations from the club, and in the past 6 seasons they have only qualified for the playoffs once. So I
Yep.
think this season is one to look out for under Gerard.
Exactly. So moving on, we can go to like FC Goa. I think Alexander Romario Jesus, who once played for Chennai City FC and he won the I League with them. So he has returned to FC Goa because he again won the I League with Mohan Bagan. He was sent on loan by FC Goa there. He won the I League with them. He's come back home. Will be staying this season as confirmed by the gaffer, and I think that's a very big movement for for again they have robbed in a very young talent whom they've nurtured somewhere else and they've come back. So it shows a continuous pattern that FC Goa is following of players successfully completing loan stints or getting promoted from the academy. I think there's more news on FC Goa. Himanshu has some news as well.
Yes, they have also roped in the Shillong Lajong captain Frankie Buam.
Yeah, Frankie.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah, Frankie Bohm. So he spent the later part of the season in FC Bengaluru United as a loanee under the current gaffer Gormangi Singh, and he had a very successful stint at Shillong Lajong, even though they got relegated. He was one of their star players,
Star players.
and and he got six goals last season, and that was the third highest, I guess, for an Indian player. And considering he's a midfielder and he's just 19, so
Hmm.
he has definitely got an eye for goal.
I think like FC Goa is again rebuilding. We talked about it. Chaminda also pointed out FC Goa is again rebuilding. So once they sell players or once players get moved, shift out, they don't stop. The influx of Indian youngsters continues. So I think this is a very important like an example of other clubs how to like operate. And on that point, we will still consider FC Goa to be favorites to win again because ATK Mohan Bagan or Bengaluru will be posing the biggest threat again. But FC Goa and also Mumbai City FC, but FC Goa still has the the base on which they can win the Indian Super League because it's not different. They have a core, they have a veteran Indian core, they have a certain foreigners who have come in, and the youngsters are, I think, they're looking very sharp and high expectations again from FC Goa.
Yeah, and Frankie Boom, he could be a great understudy to Brandon Fernandez. He is the perfect number 10 to replace
He
him in
can
the
learn.
future.
He can
Yeah.
learn basically, right? Yeah, he can learn. And on
Meanwhile,
that point, on that point, I also remember, and I see Mayuk and I remember that. What about Steven Taylor returning to Orissa FC, man? Like he was the captain. He was the captain at the A League club, but also he played for Newcastle United. So I think Mayuk has a viewpoint on Taylor signing.
So Steven Taylor is a player that I feel very emotionally attached to because at one particular time, if like the club was under like a proper management, probably he still would have been here. But due to some mismanagement, he's no longer there. But there was a time we expected him to be like the John Terry of Newcastle, or rather the one club man status, because he has been an academy graduate of Newcastle, and then he played for like almost more than 200 to 50 games for the club. Right, and in his prime and in his best form, he was a solid center back. I still am nostalgic about the prime Alan Pardew days when the back line consisted of Danny Simpson, Ryan Taylor, Fabrizio Coloccini, and Steven Taylor. So at that time, Steven Taylor and Fabrizio Coloccini formed such a cohesive partnership that even the top attackers of the league found it really hard to get by him. And Steven Taylor himself, standing at I guess 6 feet and 1 inch tall, is a towering figure. He can head the balls in from the corners, all right. And obviously he then shifted to like lesser leagues in Australia and New Zealand.
But he's more of a natural talent, no? Like he's a leader as well. He can speak different languages, so he can adapt. Plus, he has a trait in himself, a born leader. That's why I think Orissa are so keen to bring him and make him the captain straight away.
Indeed. And he captained Newcastle like a number of times, and indeed he has been like an influential person in the dressing room. Always like he was a commanding voice even during the turmoil times of Newcastle. So with his introduction to the Indian Super League, I think this speaks volumes about where the league is heading towards, because he's really a player that can any day go back and play in the championship or even in a newly promoted Premier League club, because he has that level of capability. All right, but he has chosen to sign for an ISL club. It shows or it speaks in volumes the right direction in which the league is moving. Also, I should not be having, or any one of us should not be having some unrealistic expectation like Steven Taylor would make Odisha FC win the league this year. But definitely, I can tell you that there will be some like string of solid performances from his part. At least his body language and the way he guides and leads the team will be visible from his inclusion in the.
And we can expect that Mayuk will definitely be having a soft corner in his heart for Orissa FC this season, at least for Taylor itself.
Definitely. I'm even looking forward to buying a T-shirt with a Taylor name behind and Odisha FC probably.
Let's see.
Someday, sometime later, maybe in some future episode, my background will no longer be Newcastle United. It might just be Odisha FC. Who knows?
Sure. So, on the Indian front, we have two more important news before we wrap it up on this particular segment. I think Ishan Pandita is returning home. Chaminda can give a small point on Ishan Pandita as well.
Well, he's often considered as probable long-term replacement for Sunil Shetty in the Indian side, right?
Yeah, we have been following his career for a long time. Yeah, he's highly rated, and with me and Chaminda, we have been following him for a long time. And I think he was playing in the Spanish lower divisions. So
he was playing in that third division Spanish league. Yeah.
So what expectations do you have? What expectations do you have when he returns to Indian Super League?
First of all, he has spent almost half a decade in Spain till now. So I think obviously Spanish league is highly regarded in terms of technicality. That's why I think he will bring great technicality to the Indian soil with him, right? And with mix that technicality with his natural talent, and he will be a great prospect. So I think
I like the statement, if you remember, he said players like Anirudh Thapa and Brandon Fernandez, they should come to Europe because he said, don't think about the money you earn. It will obviously be lesser than what you earn in India, but the experience you gather here would be very vital when you go back home or play for your country. So this guy spent his childhood. I think I couldn't recognize him seriously, man. Like he was a lean figure guy, and like now he's stout and physicality, like I was quite surprised his changing physical appearance, and I think he personally feels he's ready. And if he is ready, Indian Super League fans should be quite excited, man,
Very
because in
excited.
Ishan Pandita, you will see a new number 9, like a new dimension
Yeah.
of the European number 9.
I think
Alright.
it's a model for other players to follow, how to adapt how after going into the European soil, and then learn the things and experience new things, and then come back and perform at the top level in this national
Especially
level.
yeah. And one more point, like I wanted to ask you guys to vote on, like, since the I-League second division fixtures are out, so you can see on the screen the fixtures, like you will get it in the I-League website as well. So you guys are pinning someone who will get promoted, so obviously, and I would like to know your opinions on whom you are rooting for this season in the second division.
I'm definitely rooting for Mohammedan because Mohammedan Sporting Club have been rampant in this transfer window. They have brought in a host of players, and to name their no, the major signings, they have brought in Willis Plaza. So Willis Plaza is a seasoned striker in the I League. They have brought in him from Churchill Brothers, and he is going to bang in those goals.
So
Also,
he
they
is
have
going to be the key reason. Yeah, I
yeah,
understand.
he's going to be the main man leading the front line. Also, they've brought in Himanshu Jangra. He's a very highly rated youngster in the Indian circuit. He was previously with Minerva Punjab, and Ranjit Bajaj speaks very highly of him. He says Himanshu Jangra is the next in striker after Sunil Chetri. And also they've signed in Sobi Ghosh from Northeast United, the veteran left back. So there are
Yeah,
some
they
very
bought in the many season campaigners. True, man.
uh,
True.
Cool.
So, Chaminda, whom are you rooting for?
Well, I'll be rooting for FC Bangalore United. They are the underdogs in their own city, so and they have greatly invested in their youth academies and the grassroots level. So I think
Yeah.
in the long run, if they succeed to get themselves promoted, then they have a strong base upon which they can grow. So I'll be rooting for them.
Definitely. If such a model of investing on youth structure and bringing up their own players work out, it will be a very big boost for the economy, of Indian football, youth Indian football. It's good, man. Like, it's a good option you took. And
Yeah.
Mayur?
Well, I completely respect the co-analyst's opinion, but I feel that football is nothing but a game of consistency, and consistency always pays off. So in a similar manner, like we have seen in the top leagues of the Europe and other continents, that the clubs who are closely knit together, work cohesively together, eventually become a team to be reckoned with. We have seen the example with the Southampton. We've seen the example in recent times with Burnley. So that's why I'm rooting for RIFC for this year's promotion hunt, because I think they have been together. They are more of a family now than a team. And I believe this is finally the year when they shoot up to the success they deserve.
Yeah, they have a small field, but I think their infrastructure quality is like a world class, man, at RIFC. They have a very small field and infrastructure. I think they are upgrading slowly, and I think they were the first club to bring such an aura of professionalism into the second tier. So it's a good choice again, man. And
Yeah.
my personal
So,
opinion, it will boil down to, I think, Mohammedan and Garwal. Keeping Garwal because these guys are hungry, man. Like, I saw some guy like very hungry for playing football, for moving up, and these guys were trained at Baichung Bhutia Football School, like BBFS. So Garwal has a collaboration with them when most of them are trained there. So technically, I don't believe them to be lagging the so-called superstars. Their average age is less, so they will pose a threat. They will be the underdogs, but Mohammedan will definitely be the favorites to get
okay,
promoted.
so that has been very insightful, and as we can see that it's quite like forming up to with a like the premier season for ISL in its history, and we're really looking forward to that. But that's all the time we have for our transfer talk and Indian news analysis. Catch you guys in the next episode, and if you like what you see, do like this video and subscribe to our channel to get weekly updates on from the world of football and especially from the world of Indian football. Thank you, and have a great time. Bye bye.